systems are a go.
Confirming all systems are a go. Launching the podcast.
3, 2, 1.
This is Hello from Mars.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Marissa. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hello from Mars. Every single episode a little bit different than the last. You know, we went back to my high school reunion to kick the season off. We talked about Britney Spears and gave you some updates last episode when it came to everything that's going on with the Free Britney campaign. And this week, it is all about voiceover. And how do you get started? What kind of voiceover is there? That's a big part of what I do in my normal day-to-day. All about coaching the different types of voiceover. So today I've got two guests that are going to be hanging out with me. And oddly enough, both named Josh. I didn't plan it that way. It just kind of happened. But the first is a former radio student of mine. He has been dabbling in the world of podcasting as well. And he does a bunch of different character voices. So I'm going to talk to him about how he got started in that and what his kind of goals are for the future. As well as we'll call him Josh number 2, I guess. But he's my buddy from work. We do the Voice Coaches Radio podcast as well, and that's all about voiceover. So going to talk to him about his past in the voiceover industry and what he's kind of been doing and how he kind of decided to start dabbling in some additional things as well. And any advice that he has too. So that's all going to be on the way starting right now. Let's talk to Josh Dowd. Josh, with you, we met when I was teaching at the radio school back in the day. I had a brief stint in between radio jobs, and that's how you and I got to hang out. But back then, your main focus was obviously radio. Since then, I'm seeing your shirt. I know it's Wham Radio that you're doing, and that's your podcast. And there's a lot that's involved in this because I think a lot of people think podcast and they think it's something like this, where it's interviews and it's, maybe crime stories or pop culture related, or it's famous people talking about their times on TV shows or whatever the case might be. But for you, it's a little bit storytelling. But what I wanted to ask you is how did you get involved or started with voice impersonations? Because that's what you do a lot of, right?
Yeah.
What was the inspiration there?
Honestly, it all started, I was driving home one day and I was in a foul mood, and the New York drivers are New York drivers sometimes.
Whatever you mean.
You know exactly what I mean.
Listen, I lived in Boston. I know all about it. Way worse than New York. So don't even.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. I've heard horror stories of Boston, but I've not experienced it. I'm like, man, I'm not intimidated. Let's bring it on.
Yeah.
But that's really how it all started. I was in a foul mood, and Slipknot or something was on the radio, and I realized I could almost get the little hardcoreness of Slipknot, and then it made me chuckle, and I was like, well, if I could do Slipknot, what else could I do?
Right.
And after that was and this one I feel like everyone can relate to. And this one is, do you have an animal? Obviously, I know you have
I got 3.
Okay, cool.
I am a mother of 3, 3 very cute fur babies that all look like stuffed animals, but they're very, very real. But anyway, go ahead.
I asked, do you got a cute animal voice? Mine would be Misty, which is actually my girl voice that I add effect to.
I got you.
So it doesn't sound so dudish.
It's funny that you mentioned that because back when I was consistently in a radio station studio, when you knew me and I was, doing the afternoon show, I would do a topic hour. And every day that, obviously would require phone calls and some interaction. But what I started noticing is people wouldn't call in until they heard somebody else. So I would call myself and I would change my speech pattern and I would record it, via phone. And then I would play around with the pitch. So sometimes I'd be a dude. Sometimes I'd just be another girl, but my voice would be much higher than mine, and I'd be playing around with it. My mom didn't even know. She would listen every day and she didn't even know. So I know exactly what you mean. When you get when you get good at it, you're able to definitely pull it off with ease. So what else? What else kind of, has spawned from all of this creativity? Because I was listening to Wham Radio, and I'll let you explain exactly what that is in just a moment. But there's a lot of different voices involved. Now I know that you have other people that participate, but how many voices do you end up doing?
I have a list right here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Wow.
And that's without like just off the, I figured that might be a question that came up, and so I was like trying to go through them earlier.
When you're doing this and you're kind of, creating these stories and you're going back and forth, I mean, are you able to go with ease from one character to the other and kind of like keep that fluid conversation?
Oh yeah, actually, when I record everything, I record what I call a rough draft, where I just read the whole thing through, and it's me doing all the voices very poorly. And then when I meet up with the actors, I insert their clips, and so I know where everything goes.
Yeah, I got you. Well, all right. Well, let's get back to what Wham Radio really is. So, because like I was saying, like we met at the radio school. Radio is like a first love for you, but this is something that you've been kind of playing around with, and this is your podcast. So, what is Wham Radio, and like what spawned it? Like, where did this idea come from?
The idea came from I had no idea on how to get started in voiceover work.
Okay.
No, and at this point, COVID has just started. Everything's shutting down. And I was thinking to myself that I always loved writing. I write little stories here and there throughout my life. And I was like, well, me and an old friend, Jesse Kimber, who you may know, who was in our class,
Yeah.
always dreamed of owning a radio station at one point. And I was like, well, this is never going to happen. Radio station, Fly 92 is a big entrepreneur owned by James Morrell.
Right. But like it could be the smallest radio station and it's still like $1 million or more kind of buy. So it is tough,
Right.
Even somebody like myself who's been in the business forever, I don't ever see that being in my future either.
So the idea really started from, well, we can't own a radio station. What if I created one inside of my head? And they got into adventures while working in a radio station. And that's kind of what Wham Radio is when people ask me what it is, I say it's the adventures of Lemur, Rocky, and Fauna, our 3 main characters. And the adventures, the hijinks adventures is what I like to say, that they get into while working for the radio station.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. And I know, like, obviously Kelly's been on my podcast and, she was also in your class back in the day at the radio school and she's part of this. Is she Fauna?
Yes, she is.
Yeah. I honestly, I was listening to like the latest episode earlier and I knew which one was her because it was saying something about chocolate penises. And that instantly I'm like, well, that's Kelly.
Yeah.
So with this, obviously you don't know where to necessarily get started. I'm going to give you like a website afterwards that you can kind of like start dabbling with, when it comes to what I'm going to give you is more audiobook based, but obviously there's a lot of characters involved and with what you're doing right now, you're telling a story,
Yeah.
So it really does fit. So I'll definitely pass that along to you. First of all, what would be your hope for Wham Radio, for the podcast itself? And then also like future goals, like where would you like to see all of this go? And where would you like to have your voice heard one day?
Oh, wow. To be honest, I'd love to get it animated. That's like my dream, is to actually, because right now it's just in podcast form, and as fun as it is to visualize what Rocky would look like or what the whole world of Wham Radio would look like, because that is part of the fun of the podcast of it. But I would just love to see it brought to life, see the colorful creation of it. That is, I have 2 more seasons that I've written because it was my goal to try to get to 50 episodes. Okay. And then stop there for a hot minute and then try to dabble with the animation and figure that out. If we could get it on a Netflix or Hulu, one of the big providers, Amazon, that would be awesome. But Wham Radio for me, Mar, was always created for, oh man, it's COVID and it's the same things that are on TV and no one has anything new to enjoy or anything. So I was like, oh, well, I'll create something and it will be something new and fun and exciting people can get into. And then they don't have to watch the same dribble over and over again.
Yeah.
And from there, it's just fathomed into so much more.
Yeah. Cool. So, all right. So obviously, with the podcast itself, getting it animated and seeing that kind of thing come to life, that's always fun. Like, right. So it's like, you start with this idea, because I know what that's like just on the music side of things, like writing a song and then hearing, that kind of magic sort of come to life, with other musicians and stuff. And that's always just, that always feels really cool to see something that you worked so hard on and somebody else actually be able to really understand your vision too, to go along with it. It's awesome. So I really hope that can happen for you. So along with that though, say you find some ways to start navigating this industry in a little bit of a better way. What would you, when it comes to animation and stuff, I mean, what would you like to do? Like, where would you like to start? What would you like to grow into?
Oh, I'd love to do, honestly, my dream is to be a Spider-Man villain. I don't want to be Spider-Man. Nope. I totally want to be the villain.
Is it because of the evil ways? I always feel like, those kind of characters, they get to be something more bigger in a lot of ways. It's like a lot more acting chops gets put in there.
Oh yeah, I feel like when you play a villain, you have especially depends on which one, but you definitely have to bring your A game to the table.
Oh yeah,
it isn't you're not just the voice, and that's what you got to remember. What I try to remember with voice acting is you're not just conveying this with a voice, but you got to remember some of the teachings that you taught us way back when of inflection. How to emote, how to pronunciate, but also make it clear and precise, but deliver that fun and unexpected, what I like to call cartooniness to it. I do a bad guy in Wham Radio. I call him Morty the Mortician, and it's kind of based off of the Crypt Keeper, but I love doing it. It's it's so much fun. I do the hand twitch with it. I get really into it.
Well, and I've said that to students that I have too. It's like they always feel like they need to be so stiff when they're recording something. I'm like, no, as long as you're not making any noise, the microphone's not picking it up, you're fine. I'm usually talking like this, crazy, hands all over the place, because I realized the first audiobook I did, I was kind of trying to, sit up straight and speak from my diaphragm and be engaging like I'm supposed to and all these things. But I noticed I wasn't moving my hands and I started stumbling over words easier. Once I started doing this, all of a sudden it's everything started flowing much easier, and which was good because it was 13 hours of recording. And if I had to keep stumbling over things, I mean, that's just going to make my life miserable. So it was good. You've got to find your groove, find what helps allow you to bring the right things out. Right. I mean, and if that's what your little, whatever you just did, your little hand motion, if that's what, brings that character to life, you've got to do it, so it's cool that you're able to kind of create these characters, bring them to life, and then, kind of base a story around them. So, as a teacher, I'm proud.
Oh, thank you, Mar.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for being a part of things today. Where can people find Wham Radio?
Oh, it is all over. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on YouTube. We are on Anchor FM, which pretty much Anchor, if you're familiar with Anchor FM.
Everything.
Yeah, they make sure it gets out.
Yeah. So, all right, wherever podcasts are streamed, that is where you can find Wham Radio. But cool. Well, thank you for being a part of this today. Make sure when this comes out, you tune in, because I'm sure the other Josh is going to give us some good bits of information that might be helpful to you too.
I always tune in every episode, Mar.
Well, thanks.
I'm a subscriber.
So this is a different view from what I'm used to. This is what the students see, Yeah,
this is my recording area. Well, actually, I record in that room right there.
Oh, the closet, yeah.
The closet, yep, in my tiny little closet. But yeah, this is it's nice. This is my home.
It says home and everything.
My home. Welcome to my home.
I love it. So, well, let's just get started, because for those who don't know, I work with Josh over at Voice Coaches, and what our job is coaching voice acting classes. And kind of teaching people how to do it, really. It's not as easy as everybody just wants to think it is. I always like to tell the story of, there was this one time that I was broadcasting live for a radio station, and I was in Saratoga Springs, and I'm in between my breaks for my radio show. I was entertaining the crowd that was there, that they were coming in. And I remember this guy like kind of started heckling me a little bit. Like he started like kind of poking at me, and I was like, oh, I mean, do you want to do it? Like here. And I handed him the microphone, and he was like, and I was like,
Panic.
exactly. So anyway, as I was saying, like, and it's just funny because everybody just assumes that this is such an easy thing that anybody can do. And anybody can, right?
I mean, ultimately, like I used to be that way when I used to do sports. It was like, oh, I love talking about sports. I could do that. And I'm like, could you though? Maybe
right.
not. Like
maybe not. Yeah.
It's a bit more into it than that.
Right. There's skill. There's, I mean, especially something like sports, like you have to have a lot, like a Rolodex of knowledge up here about the sport itself. So you can pull out random facts and
I succeeded in doing that by voiding my brain of anything else.
That explains a lot, actually.
It was effective. It was very effective at the time. It's had repercussions, but it was effective at the time.
Oh gosh. So, well, I think, what's interesting to me is, both of us do come from different backgrounds in voice, me having 17 years in the radio industry and you doing sports for so long. And we've found ourselves both here now at Voice Coaches, where we are using that knowledge that we've gained over the course of our careers and spreading it to other people while still, doing our thing too, in like different ways. But for you, when you started at Voice Coaches, had you done any other type of voice work other than sports?
No, not really. The answer is no. I'd done some sports talk radio. Because my background was play-by-play. I'd done some sports talk radio, and again, I mean, working for a team, just like working for a radio station, I did our voicemails. I did our voiced over our videos that we put out there. I did our local commercials because I was on payroll and cheaper that way. So I had done that, but only in the context of, you're here, you have a voice, you do this type of deal. So, but aside from that, no, I had never done anything kind of, in that vein, never, attempted to get work trying to do that or anything like that. So
then what made you start going, I think I want to turn my closet in my spare bedroom into a recording studio.
So, the team I was working for relocated, and I was let go, and I was unemployed for about 6 months and was looking for work. And I'm pretty sure I found an ad on, God, I think it was Craigslist, to be totally honest with you. The Craigslist or something like that. And it was basically looking for a producer, someone who could produce. And I had done that. I used to record all our games and edit those up. So I had some experience that, and kind of just reached out. And so, getting into voiceover wasn't anything that I thought of doing until I started working for the company and realized that, one of the benefits of working for the company is being able to pursue that, and them kind of, encouraging that. But even then, I really didn't start pursuing it probably for another year or so. I just kind of went through the motions, did the teaching and producing like we do, but didn't really start going after my own type of work until much later. As far as my own little closet studio there, I was recording actually in this corner of the room. I took my wife's yoga mat and taped it to the wall, so that was effective
for soundproofing, so everybody understands that.
And borrowed a microphone from the studio and called it a day. And it was during it was a little over a year ago during the pandemic. All the studios were closed, and I did have a little bit of work here and there. And one of the things I wanted to get into and have since was audiobooks, and realizing that most of those are done at home anyways. It was kind of like, I'm here, I can't go to a studio now if I wanted to. If I'm ever going to do this, might as well. And
also there was nothing else to do, so you might as well just dive in head first.
There was a lot of improvements to my house done that year. I think there were a lot of improvements to a lot of people's houses done.
Yeah, that's why lumber prices skyrocketed.
Right. So I decided to, give it a go, and it's good, small, but whatever, it works. So and that was basically decided, like, if I'm ever going to do this, now was the time, because I got nothing else to do. So decided, hey, if I'm going to be stuck in my house, might as well see if I can get paid for getting stuck in my house.
Right. And, I think that's like a big question that we get from students too, is like, well, how do you do the home setup? Like, do I need to build something? Do I need to spend a ton of money? And I mean, you told me, maybe $1,000 to do that.
Do you want me to give you a tour?
Yeah, give me that. That'd be great. Like, show me where your cat used to poop.
Let's take a walk, shall we? So there's a chair in front of it right now. So clearly not in use at the moment. Oh, goodness. Okay, so if we open up this door,
Bring me right inside that closet there.
yeah, it's snug.
Oh, look at the lights though. I like it though. I like it. It's got a little shelf. Like that's all that it really needs to be, you know?
Yeah, and it's just that's it.
So-
That's the whole thing.
Do you have anything up for soundproofing? Like what's on the walls? Is it just
That is so the wall is this acoustic blanket,
okay.
and then I got an acoustic tile up here that I had
Okay.
sized and put on. It's all literally being held up by thumbtacks and tension rods.
Oh wow. So that could be a really dangerous moment in mid-record.
Yeah, because there's an attic up there that I need to get to every now and again. So I had to actually be able to do that. But unfortunately, when it rains, it's very noisy.
Yeah.
So one of the things I didn't think about when recording is all the extraneous noise that is everywhere.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I have windows here, and I close them, and my neighbor mows his lawn, and it doesn't matter.
I feel like the lady next door to me mows every day. I feel like she's constantly mowing. And to have that kind of free time is like cool. But like, you know, I don't have that free time. I got recording to do. Can you please stop?
Well, and so I have he's in kindergarten right now, but I have a 5-year-old half the time running around, and recording with him in the house it's just impossible. Like he basically runs around like an elephant. And so I oftentimes record, most of my audiobook recording is done at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, just barely trying to stay awake for as long as
When I get to that time too, like for me, if I'm trying to record, like I don't even bother because once I'm tired, you can tell like my voice is tired. Like my voice gets
you know what? My voice was okay, but what I was trying to do is like record a chapter or two and then immediately go and edit that. And that was problematic because after doing a couple hours or like an hour or so of recording at like 11 at night and then trying to edit and listen back to it in real time.
Yeah. No, because at that point you're boring yourself. Let's face it.
Nothing was happening. Nothing. I'd finish and be like, I think it's okay. I don't know. I could listen to it again, but I'm not gonna.
So what were the first steps that you found that you took? Because, you know, for me, the voice work that I've gotten primarily has been through the relationships that I've built over my career. So like I do a bunch of commercials for a radio station locally. And, you know, I've been doing social media for somebody that I know. And like the radio station work that I've gotten over the last month has been old bosses or old connections. So when you started trying to dabble on your own into the voiceover stuff you've been doing, what were your first steps that you took?
First, I kind of told people you want to see who like kind of like you said, you have connections. Do they know people? Some do, some don't. Most don't, but that's okay, right? So just kind of, you know, spreading the word out there a little bit. Social media, I'm not the biggest social media guy in the world, but
you don't say. I posted on your Facebook after you added me, and I've heard crickets.
I don't really check Facebook. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I get notifications on it. I very rarely look, but sorry. Hey, listen, you're like I'm even here, like half the cheese. But you know, so I did that a little, I guess. But most of it was, you know, so when I worked with the hockey team, you know, a lot of our sponsors and things like that, I had relationships with, or reached back out to them just to let them know this is what I'm doing. My first job came from a small business association event, an SBA event.
Oh, cool.
It was a local fire restoration company, and they didn't need anything at the time, but you know, soon thereafter, they needed someone to do a voicemail piece, and I ended up getting that. In fact, dig into my desk drawer, I still have a paycheck.
Did you cash it?
I did, yes.
Okay, I'm just making
sure. That's the beauty of like taking a picture of it.
I mean, well, let's face it. I mean, we don't do this just because it's fun.
No, listen, that's $175 better in my pocket. But I need to get like a frame or something, like put that somewhere, because that's my first paid job doing this. That's pretty neat. It's pretty.
No,
neat.
I do have a lot of my old like pay stubs from different things, just because it's like kind of fun to look back and go, oh, that's right. Like, you know, when I my first like big full-time radio job was in Omaha, Nebraska, and this is so Omaha, right? So like I got there. And I'm just, you know, I'm 23 years old. I'm just kind of learning a lot of things, and I'm music director. So I'm learning that, and I'm on the air. And one of the production guys came up to me at one point. He's like, hey, I think you'd be perfect for this. Would you be interested? Like, can you do a little audition for me? Turned out it was like a training video or an educational video for a dairy farm. So I got to talk a lot about cows. I have no idea whatever happened with that thing. I've never got to hear the final piece or watch it or anything. It's out there floating somewhere. But yeah, if you ever happen to watch a dairy educational video, It might be
Which seems,
23-year-old
seems
me.
very likely. It seems very likely I will in the near future.
I mean, hey, if you, who knows, you might like, check out something for Omaha Steaks and it goes, well, back in the day in our dairy farm. So, so it's okay. So you started with some voicemail stuff, but you have been doing some audiobooks, and how did that kind of form?
Yeah. So I actually, I work as an assistant coach at a CrossFit gym here, and our head coach had written a couple books. I had known that. I actually owned one of them and never gave it a second thought because whatever. But years after I had this book, I was like, hey, I wonder if it's ever been read before, because I knew it was self-published, and of course it hadn't been. And I approached him and was like, hey, so I'm looking to get experience. Probably not a bad idea for you to have an audio version of this. What do you think? And I did it for free, essentially. We worked out a deal that I get like .some% of profits, of which there have been a none. So breath on that. That was just more to say that I'm doing this professionally more than anything else. And so it kind of started out that way. I did that for him. And then he had a friend who also, in that community, who needed a book read, and he mentioned my name, got in contact with me. I'm pretty sure that the guy that he sent to me thought I was going to do it for free. He was mistaken. It's like, listen, if I come to you and I'm like, hey, I want to do this, that's fine. I'm off.
Right.
Like, come to me. I didn't get paid much, but I got paid something. And
that's also the downfall, I think, of this industry, because people think it's so easy. They think, well, I'm not going to pay you. Like, this is just what you do for fun, right? No, it's a career, people. And
it's funny because, and you and I have talked about this, but so the biggest project I've done is a 14 and change hour science fiction novel,
which blows my mind. That's a lot.
That took me, and it ended up taking me a couple months. But if I break down the hours that I recorded it, edited it.
Yeah, I know that's the worst word to try to say. I don't even know.
that I went and cleaned it up.
Plural of moose. I don't know.
Moosin'. And so, when I did all that, by the time I was done, I calculated about 40 plus hours, give or take. And keep in mind, and you know this as well as I do, this is not I have a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
And I also have a little rugrat running around, and I also coach, and I like to sleep every now and again when I can.
That's the most common question that people ask me, like when I'm going through and telling people my background when we start classes. They're like, when do you sleep? I'm like, I don't know.
Sparingly. Fun fact, octopus, the plural of octopuses should be octopuses.
It
not
should
octopi.
But is it octopi?
No, people say octopi, but octopi is actually incorrect.
Oh, well, I'm glad that
octopi is Roman, and it should be it's Latin rather, and it should be the Greek, which would be octopodes, which would be amazing, and I don't know why we don't do that. But because it's in the English language, it should be octopuses. I found this out the other day watching.
It's just, I'm so glad we can talk about this.
I saw it in a video.
Moose. Is it meese, or is it just moose?
It's just moose.
Whatever.
Many much moose. It's multiple moose.
So what is something that you tell students, like if once they're trying to get things started, obviously telling people that you're doing it, like any relationships that you might already have, is there another step? Because I know for me, when I wanted to start doing audiobooks, we started looking at like ACX. It's a website that works with Audible. That it can be a very complicated little monster. For somebody who has no idea what they're doing.
By the way, I'm in a big dry spell with ACX right now.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, yeah. About 30 auditions, over 30. Nothing. It's been
that's surprising.
I had a month where I was just inundated, and now it is. Whew, it's a wild west there.
I mean, I've done a couple. I haven't really auditioned for anything. I've been too busy, but I have I've been doing that teen novel series. So I have the third one that I have to do. But yeah, I mean, I haven't even been putting myself out there because like we said, it can be a lot of work and I just don't have the free time to do it.
One of the greatest things about that though, is that science fiction novel I was talking about, in a couple of weeks, I'm taking, my wife and my son, we're going to Niagara Falls for a long weekend, going on vacation, and that is paying for everything.
Oh, that's awesome.
And not only that, it also, if I do the math correctly, pays for everything that you saw in my studio, including my microphone.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. See, and that's the thing. It can be very profitable, but it's time consuming. So it's
don't break down. I mean, I got 72 PFH. So I got $72 per finished hour for the 14 and change hours that it was. If I do the math for like 40 hours, I don't want to do the math. Great. I'm good. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, but what's better? What's better, working out of your closet and doing that, or fast food?
I mean, I've never worked in fast food, so
I'm going to tell you, working in your closet's a lot better. I'm just going to say, personal experience.
I would guess so. Also, literally, I can go in there in like my pajamas and have a cup of coffee, even though you're not supposed to drink coffee while you're doing this, or whatever I do anyways. Cup of coffee, my pajamas, rock it out, go back to bed.
Exactly.
Convenient.
Exactly.
Convenient. But yeah, no. So I mean, what do I tell? Again, persistence is key. Persistence, and consistency are so important, because look, I've been doing this. I'm going through a dry spell right now. I'm having doubts, as we all do. But stick with it. Stick with it. It can take time. It can be frustrating. It is. This is, I mean, getting stuff out there, getting, kind of consistent work, that's the work. What we do when we record, we do that because we love it, because that part is fun.
Yeah.
This part is not fun. I don't enjoy this part. I'm very uncomfortable reaching out and telling people what I do. I've really had to, swallow hard and be like, hi, here's my card. I don't like it. I don't. I'm uncomfortable doing it. Clearly, I have no problem chatting with people. I'm pretty outgoing, I'd like to say. But ask me to talk about myself and like ask for, people need work. I hate it. But that's the way it is. That's what you have to do. And, so being able to kind of, do that and, know that if you want to do this and you're good enough to do this and you've gotten to a point where you are pursuing this, you can do this. But again, it's going to take some time sometimes, and that's okay. That doesn't mean it's not a referendum on you or your voice or anything like that, even though it feels that way sometimes. And being able to kind of push through that. We've talked about that imposter syndrome that everyone gets, including us.
Yes.
Like you and I know we can do this. We've done this. We have gotten paid to do this
for probably far too long.
Yeah, that's probably true. And yet, like I said, right now, I'm wondering if I'm ever going to get another audiobook job again. I know
you will. Yeah.
I know that in the back of my head, but you tell me
later today.
Every email that I get that's like, we've decided to go in another direction. I'm like,
yeah,
hits me right here.
But what do we always say too? It's like this is the nature of the entertainment industry, where you're going to hear no far more than you're going to hear yes.
Yeah.
But you are going to hear yes, and you are going to get those sci-fi books, and you are going to be able to pay for a vacation, so.
And it's a numbers game. It's like any other business, right? One of the first things we tell people, even before they join the program, is you're a small business. And if you're not willing to be entrepreneurial and be a small business, then this is probably not for you. If you are, then know that you're in sales. Selling yourself, your voice, but you're selling. And, ask anyone who's ever done sales. I used to do ticket sales and corporate sales. I hate it, but it's a numbers game. It's 100% a numbers game. This is no different.
Yeah.
No different at all.
The hustle never stops. That's the thing. I think a lot of people think once they get that first job, second job, okay, I can slow down now. No, the hustle game, like I'm at the same momentum I was in 2004 when I started that I am like right now. Like that has to keep going.
Get more back.
You have to keep those relationships built. You have to keep putting the effort in, because if you don't, people are going to see it and people aren't going to care anymore. They're going to be like, well, she doesn't care, so I'm not going to care.
We talk a lot about, getting repeating work, right? Getting, where someone who knows someone. I mean, it does snowball like that. It's 100% true, but we're always looking for the next job. Always looking for the next first job. When we get repeating work, when someone reaches back out and is like, hey, you did this for me, I want you to do that. Awesome. That's just cake. That's what that is. That's jobs without having to do any work. Outstanding. Right. But we're always looking for that next first job.
Yeah.
And I don't think, anyone ever stops doing that. I don't think you ever stop doing that.
No. And if you do, but then you probably are trying to find something else to do too. Like, at least you should be at that point.
Probably true.
But Josh, thank you for being a part of this.
Sure.
I think, we've got, I know I have past students from the radio school that tune in, and they haven't really done a whole lot with everything since then, and they still want to. And, the other Josh that was on right before you, he's been wanting to dabble into some animation and doing some character voices and stuff. So hopefully this is giving him a little push in the right direction too. And I'm going to let you go and enjoy the rest of your day off. That's what I'm going to do.
Thank you so much. Pardon my tardiness. I do a complete brain fart. Literally
Are you kidding? I'm
in
so
my
used
kitchen.
to this. Yeah,
But
well,
no, but I appreciate it. Anytime you wanna chat, I'm happy to do so. And obviously, we'll do another version of this on Friday.
I know we really will. Yeah, for those who don't know, we do the Voice Coaches podcast as well. You can hear that at Voice Coaches Radio on all the streaming platforms and right there at voicecoaches.com. And then you can hear all our ridiculous antics every single Friday. So it's crazy.
Yeah. That's what you should.
Thanks for checking out this all-new episode of Hello from Mars. Another new episode is coming out Halloween week, just in time to bring psychic medium Katie Manning Hilton back. And she's going to be talking about your ghost stories, as well as some of her own. Don't forget, you can stream Hello from Mars wherever you stream podcasts, and watchable right here on YouTube. Oh, hey!
You forgot me, didn't you?
100%. I'm literally sitting in my kitchen, eating yogurt, drinking coffee, and I see your text, and I'm like, son of a bitch.